What if I told you that one shadowy figure, hidden in the gaslit fog of London's East End, left behind a trail of horror so chilling that over a century later, the mystery still whispers through the dark streets? Between August and November of 1888, the crowded, labyrinthine alleys of Whitechapel became the hunting ground of a figure the world would come to fear: Jack the Ripper. It's a name that has never been forgotten, etched into history not by who he was, but by what he did. And by the haunting fact that no one ever caught him. This case is more than just an unsolved puzzle. It's a legend drenched in fear, suspicion, and the kind of deafening silence that only pure terror can leave behind. Let's remember the names at the heart of this tragedy. 5 women: Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly. 5 names whispered through time. 5 lives cut short in the most brutal way imaginable. 5 voices drowned beneath the roar of Victorian gossip and prejudice. At the time, society branded them instantly women of the streets, forgotten souls lurking in the shadows of Whitechapel. But history has begun to peel back the layers of those cruel lies. Modern researchers, like historian Hallie Rubinhold, have shown that not all of these women fit that label. In her groundbreaking book, The Five, she argues that Nichols, Chapman, and Eddowes may never have engaged in sex work as the sensationalist papers claimed. Stride only turned to it out of sheer desperation when life left her cornered by poverty and heartbreak. Of the 5, only Mary Jane Kelly could be definitively linked to that world. The truth was far simpler and far more tragic. They were poor, they were vulnerable, and they were largely abandoned by a society that preferred to turn its back on them. It was only in their deaths that they were truly seen, their lives carved into history not for who they were, but for how they were taken from this world. The killings themselves followed a dreadful, horrifying pattern. They were swift, merciless, and grotesquely precise. In the dead of night, the throats of the victims were cut. What followed spoke of someone who seemed to understand the inner workings of the human body. The mutilations were so deliberate, so specific, that whispers began to circulate. Was this the work of a surgeon? A butcher? A man of medicine who had turned into something truly unspeakable? The fear was palpable. Then came the most infamous moment of the entire investigation. A package arrived at the Central News Agency. Inside was half of a human kidney, preserved in spirits. Alongside it was a mocking note, dripping with arrogance, signed with a name that would echo for centuries: Jack the Ripper. The letter, known as the From Hell letter, was a direct taunt to the authorities, a chilling piece of evidence that brought the horror to a whole new level. London's press seized on the story with hungry hands. Newspapers filled their pages with gruesome sketches, detailed diagrams of the crime scenes, and frenzied speculation. Every day brought a new theory, a new rumor. Some people claimed to have seen a tall man in a distinctive hat vanish into the mist. Others whispered of a cloaked figure lurking just at the edge of the lantern light, his face always obscured by shadow. And then, the letters began to pour in, dozens of them, all claiming to be from the killer. Many were hoaxes, but some had a genuinely sinister feel. Each one signed Jack, each one taunting, each one seemingly laughing at the helpless authorities. "Catch me when you can," one of the most famous letters sneered. The words hissed off the page like the voice of a phantom, daring the police to even try. The police, for their part, chased shadows. Detectives scoured the grimy alleys, questioned hundreds of locals, and rounded up suspect after suspect, but the Ripper was always one step ahead. It was as if he was a ghost, always watching, always waiting for his next opportunity. He seemed to thrive on the chaos, on the fear he was creating. The city of London itself began to boil with terror. Families barred their doors at night. Women refused to walk the streets after dark, especially in the East End. The entire district trembled with paranoia, a place where every man seen in the fog might be *him*, the butcher of Whitechapel. The fear spread so wide that it shook the very core of the British government. Public outrage burned hotter with every new, unsolved crime. Accusations flew in every direction. Even the highest ranks of authority, the Home Secretary himself and London's police commissioner, eventually fell under the pressure and resigned in disgrace, their careers shattered by their inability to stop the killings. And through it all, the Ripper's shadow only grew longer and darker. But here's the most haunting part of this entire story: Jack was never caught. The list of suspects is long and varied. Some pointed to Montague Druitt, a barrister and schoolteacher with a reported fascination for surgery, who vanished right after the final murder and was later found drowned in the Thames. Others whispered about Michael Ostrog, a known conman and thief with a history of violence and claims of medical training. Then there was Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant who lived in Whitechapel and worked as a hairdresser. He suffered from severe mental illness and was known to have a deep-seated hatred of women, making him a compelling suspect for many, including some of the original detectives on the case. In recent years, DNA evidence from a shawl supposedly found near one of the victims was claimed to point to Kosminski, though this finding remains highly debated among experts. Even well-known men of the era, painters like Walter Sickert, doctors, and respected gentlemen fell under suspicion over the years. Yet, for every compelling theory, there was a counterargument. For every piece of circumstantial evidence, there was a dead end. The trail went cold. Imagine walking those same fog-drenched streets today. The cobblestones are still there, the old brick buildings still loom. Knowing that the hands that ended those 5 lives could have brushed past someone in the dark, blending into the crowd, forever faceless. His true identity was swallowed by time, but his shadow remains, stretching across more than a century of mystery. And if he was never caught, did he ever really stop? Or did he simply fade back into the society that had unknowingly hidden him all along? The story of Jack the Ripper isn't just about horror. It's about mystery, it's about social injustice, and it's about the bone-chilling fear that evil can walk among us, completely unseen. So, would you dare wander the alleys of Whitechapel at night, where the whispers of 1888 still seem to linger in the air? Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of history's darkest shadows. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please give this video a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales, because sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we never see.